Welcome to the Better Together podcast, where we look for ways we can work together to advance the gospel of Jesus Christ. Today, we have with us Tyler Penn. You probably know him as one of our missionaries who actually does a quite unique ministry. He and his wife, Kellie, they try to reach international students on the campus of the University of Illinois and have been quite effective at that. But Tyler has ventured into another area, and he's written this little book called The Sharing Trees. So we've got Tyler to talk about this today. So first of all, Tyler, thank you for taking the time to be with us today, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Now, you're a busy man, and anyone who follows you on Facebook, they can see all the activities. It's such a busy time during
Yeah.
the holiday season, during move-in season at the university. And you're usually working with older students. And we see this book called The Sharing Trees that's not really for older people, for college students. What led you to write this particular book?
So it goes back several years. I have a lot of stories in my head, and I just always was wanting to get at least one of them out. And this is one of those stories. So really, there's a tree in the book called the fear tree. And when my wife and we had twin boys, and they were born 10 weeks early, and one of them was very sick. And during that season, as we were pulling into the city there in Champaign-Urbana, going to the hospital, it was in February, and there was a tree that had just blackbirds on it, no leaves, and it was just cloudy, gloomy. And that tree just represented so much what was going on inside of me. And from then on, it just kind of like just added to that, not to the just negative trees, but also to the positive of just seeing like in the fall and just different trees that kind of represented an emotion and a concept. And so it's kind of out of just starting to put almost like a journey of life through the representation of these trees being symbolic of that. That's kind of where it all began to form, and then it started to take shape into this idea of using this concept of trees to represent an emotion, a thought, a question that you could then actually have interaction with your child. And so instead of just asking, how was your day today? Oh, it was good. It was fine. You could
Mm-hmm.
actually just go through this book and begin to, just hear their thoughts and have this time of sharing. And that's really, yeah, it's been in my head many years. And
Yes.
so that's how it kind of came to be.
And so it comes to be, and our listeners are probably like, wow, that sounds very interesting. And maybe thinking to themselves, but how do I portray that to a child? And what's so interesting is you've got wonderful pictures of the trees, you've got wonderful, colorful designs all throughout. And it's not just the story, but you've also got the pictures that go around that Liz Lindsay did as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so she was the key component of this whole thing. I had the trees in my head. I did not have the talent to get them out. And so that's where, and just had Liz, she's a lifelong friend. We grew up at the First Real Baptist Church of Decatur, Illinois together. And so I've known Liz all my life, and she's very gifted in painting and art. And so I just, asked her if she would be willing to just get these trees out of my head if I could, and send her the descriptions and then like
Yes.
10 words of the emotions that would be about each tree, if she could kind of put that together. And she agreed, and we really just were doing it kind of, she was really just doing it as a favor for me and just to see where it would go. Um, and then as it started to form, I thought, man, there's really, it could be helpful to a lot of people besides just us. So
Yeah. Well, it is beautiful. And
yeah,
so, and you put it together with the story, and then you put, uh, I mean, this definitely, she's skillful and putting those two together, a great story with great pictures. it really does create a wonderful tool for parents and others to use. And so you put a lot of work into this. She put a lot of work into this. What were
Yeah.
you hoping would happen with this tool? How were you looking to see it be used?
So for us, really, it's just we would say the magic is not in the book. The magic is in the conversations that come from the book. That's really the tool. Is that I heard a statement, and I don't know where this came from, that the person who talks to you more than anybody else is yourself.
Hmm.
And so the person who has the most influence in your life that is constantly talking to you is really yourself. And so the concept there is like as your kids grow older, when they're going through life situations, changes, difficulties, hurts, how they're going to handle that is a lot of their own, the inner conversation they have with themselves is going to have a huge influence on how they navigate life that way. And what this book really allows is for the parent to begin to kind of impart those promises of the Lord into the child at a young age on how to navigate life so that when they get older, so when the 8-year-old is going through change, we just moved from here to here, you can talk to your 8-year-old of, the trust tree. Like even though everything's changing in your life, you can still trust that the Lord is with you. God will never, he didn't leave you once we moved from this city to this city. And that's a promise that you can hold on to and move forward with. And now when that child is 38 and big life changes is happening and they're talking to themselves about how to comfort themselves, how to get through situations, that influence is what we're hoping is that these parents who are having these biblical conversations through this tool, this book, the Sharing Trees, that this will be manifesting itself even, years down the line of, all right, God is with me. I'll be okay through this. I can face this. And that's something that was a part of their childhood and those promises. They're not just some kind of like philosophical ideas that are just floating in mythical, and wispy air. They're actually real and alive and something you hold on to in your life and have power. And so this is what we're really hoping with this book is that, the parent gets to know what the child is going through, the child is able to share what's happening, and then the parent can really begin to, put some of these biblical promises into the life and heart and mind of the child.
As I hear you talk, Tyler, I think a bit about Daniel and in Daniel 6, where they've outlawed praying. It says he went and he prayed as was his custom, and
Yeah.
depending upon the version, since his early days. But
Yeah.
the point is, he'd been doing that his whole life, and so what you're saying is, you do this as a young child, and they're dealing with this as they have a move, or they're dealing with something at school when they're 38 is as they're doing the same kind of things that they did all the way back. They may not even remember some of
Yeah.
what happened, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a processing tool. That's really what it is. It's just a way, like what you're talking about, that the child is going through processing life with the parent and going through that together so that now when they get older and they process life and they have these biblical promises, just what you're taught, they're just already there. That's
Mm-hmm.
been a part of their childhood.
That's
And it's
great.
just, you talk about my students, that's what, so I took my conversation group through the
Yep.
book and we went
Good.
through, your life here as at UIUC, University of Illinois, and just went through all the trees and, who are you connected to? What were you curious about? What were you afraid of? And even, that's been one of our best conversation groups that we've had this semester. And you get into the trust tree. What do you trust in? And then that, allows me to hear, faith kind of, conversations of what really do you put your trust in? Is it yourself? Is it a different faith? And we get to have those kind of conversations.
It's great. So really, if this appeals to people across the lifespan, if you stop and think about it,
It
because you
really
are
does.
trees.
Yeah, you can frame it. It's in any season of life. And it really just is a processing tool. Before my older two went to college, here in August, we had a breakfast together and we just went through the trees and about going to college this year. And then they reversed it on me. They were like, all right, Dad, let's take you through. And so it was like, the very first question is the tree of good choices. So what good choices have you made? And it just allowed me to then share, like, we poured a lot into their childhood. We felt like if they had a good childhood, that would be a stable platform as they now transitioned into adulthood. And so it just allowed me to kind of share some of the thoughts behind what's going on with us and them as a parent to child. And like the tree of hurt, I was able to share, like, your younger brother's going to be left here. So he's going to have loneliness that they don't know. And so that's the hurt that I have, is that he's now going to be the last one standing at home. His whole home is changing. And so there's going to be hurt there that they're not experiencing. And it just allowed me to share that, where, when you're just like, hey, what's going to happen this year at college? Oh, we're looking to have a good time. All right. It just is a processing tool.
Yeah. And works across the lifespan. So it's published by D6 Family Ministry. You can go to d6family.com to order the book. But really, Tyler, this goes right into their mission. When you rise up in the morning, as you go along the way, before you go to bed at night. And what I'm hearing you say is I can see this just before kid goes to bed, but you're doing it over breakfast, and you're able to do it in some group setting. So parents obviously could buy this. This would be a great tool for parents and for churches to give out to parents. It could also be a tool for teachers, couldn't it?
Yeah, very much so. Just a Sunday school time, just, take some time to go through these trees in that group setting, and you'd be able to kind of hear what your student is going through that maybe you never really knew. Like they just didn't have that processing tool to kind of have these questions and be able to share that way. And like Liz and I, we discussed this a lot on just how this could be used in that kind of setting. And one of the ideas we really liked was the have the child draw their own tree. Just
good
description, but then they could draw their own tree and then kind of share through that word picture, like, why did you add this? Why did you draw it this way? And just to be able to have, to share with the class, and just be a good time to understand what they're going through. And again, there's a free discipleship guide that's on the website, and it has some Bible passages. It just has some prompts for the parent or the teacher that goes with each tree on there's a promise. And so just, from that first tree, the tree of good choices, it's about God is how we know what good choices are. And there are times where you make a not so good choice, and there's bad choice and sin, but there is forgiveness, the promise of forgiveness. And that's the good choice to make there. And so it just, kind of leads itself, be very helpful for a student in a teacher setting.
That's great. Well, you've created a very good tool, Tyler, you and Liz, and we know this took a lot of efforts, and we always have ideas and thoughts, but to actually put them into practice and bring them to fruition where people can take them and use them as tools, it's just a great thing. And I want to thank you and Liz for taking the time to put this together for our parents and for teachers, different people to use in the ministry. It's a great tool.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And as the work was on Liz, it was in my head. It was all her ability, her talent, her skill, and her work and effort to get this out into something where people could see the trees. And so, yeah, she did an excellent job at this.
It's also an example of she and you using your tools. You're fearfully and wonderfully made, Psalm 139, and just creativity, how it can be useful in God's work. And so I encourage all of our listeners to get their own copy. And you're like, oh, I don't have a young child. Well, you may be a grandparent, but it's a great gift to give to others. And then for churches, look for ways to give these out to the young people. And you heard Tyler talk about how he's even used it with college students, his own children. It's just a good tool
Yeah.
to do. So thank you for doing this, Tyler.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We want to thank you for listening in today. We want to encourage you to take this podcast, share it with someone that would benefit. We also want to encourage you to support ministries like D6 Family Ministry. They're highly involved in the training and discipleship, and especially discipleship of many of our children through the ministries like Truth and Peace. So check out D6 Family at d6family.com and look for ways you might help them and support them and minister to them. And we've got Tyler here. He works with international students. He would also welcome, I think, Tyler, to, if you're interested in trying to reach international students in your area, reach out to him and he would do what he could to help you. And he works with international missions to do that, doing what he can to reach people with the gospel all throughout the world. So as you support these ministries, you're supporting important tools like this, but you're also doing what you can to help get the gospel in the hands of people all over the world. Thank you, Tyler, for being with us today and for what you're doing. And thank you for our listeners. And we want to encourage you to remember every little thing we do, it really does matter. We truly are better when we work together. We're better together. Thank you.